I thought honesty was the foundation of our love, but the deeper I trusted, the more he buried me in lies. Our apartment felt different that night. 6 years with Ethan had taught me the rhythm of our life together. His keys in the bowl by the door at 6:30, shower by 7, dinner together while sharing stories about our day. But that Tuesday, the clock struck 8:45 before I heard his key in the lock. "Sorry I'm late," he called out, his voice carrying from the hallway. The meeting ran long. I looked up from my book, ready with a smile that froze when I caught the scent drifting from his clothes. Vanilla with a hint of something floral. Not coffee. Not his cologne. Definitely not my perfume. "No problem," I answered, watching how he avoided my eyes, how his fingers worked quickly at his shirt buttons. "There's pasta in the fridge if you're hungry. Think I'll shower first," he mumbled, already heading down the hall. I sat perfectly still, listening to the water run, remembering my mother's revolving door of relationships, each one ending with that same avoidance of eye contact. Growing up, I'd promised myself I'd never ignore warning signs the way she had. Yet here I was, a knot forming in my stomach as I made excuses for him in my head. When Ethan emerged from the bathroom, hair damp and smelling only of soap, I studied his face. We had survived so much together, the long-distance year when he took that job in Phoenix, the fight with his parents when they questioned our decision to move in together, the night we pooled our savings and toasted our future home. "Everything okay?" he asked, noticing my stare. "Fine," I lied, wondering when we had started keeping secrets. "Just tired." His hands trembled slightly as he served himself dinner, and I pretended not to notice. 6 years of building trust, brick by brick, and suddenly I felt it all balanced on the edge of a cliff. The notification appeared while Ethan was in the shower 3 days later, a text from Jenna work, lighting up his phone on the nightstand. I froze, my hand hovering over the device. I'd never been the type to snoop, had always believed relationships needed boundaries. But something about that vanilla scent lingered in my memory, making my fingers twitch. Before I could decide, the screen went dark. I pulled my hand back as if it was burning. That morning over breakfast, I asked casually, "How's your team doing with the Henderson project?" Ethan looked up, a slight delay before his answer. "Good. Why?" "Just wondering if you're still working with that woman, Jenna, right?" His fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Yeah, she's on the team. Nothing special." But something in the tightness around his eyes told me otherwise. I began watching patterns after that, subtle shifts in his behavior that felt like puzzle pieces I couldn't quite fit together. The gym schedule changed weekly. The phone that now stayed in his pocket rather than on the coffee table. The new password on his laptop, for work security. Lila noticed the change in me over coffee the following week. "You look exhausted," she said, studying my face across the table at our favorite cafe. "Everything okay with you and Ethan?" I stirred my drink, watching the liquid swirl. "I think so." "You think so?" Her eyebrow arched. "That's not very convincing." "It's probably nothing," I said, but the words felt hollow even to me. My office at home became my refuge, the place where I could search for answers without feeling Ethan's eyes on me. I created a document titled Budget Planning and filled it instead with dates, times, and explanations that didn't add up. Tuesday, said he worked late. The phone location showed he was downtown at 9 p.m. Thursday, gym until 8:30, came home showered. Saturday, quick drink with coworkers, lasted 4 hours. Each inconsistency felt like a small cut. None fatal on its own, but together they bled me slowly of my certainty. The movie ticket changed everything. Found in his jacket pocket one morning when I was hanging it up. A simple slip of paper for a romantic comedy showing at 7:15 p.m. last Tuesday. The same Tuesday, he claimed to be working late on the Henderson project. My hands shook so badly I had to sit on the edge of the bed, the ticket clutched between my fingers like damning evidence. I couldn't breathe properly, my lungs refusing to fill completely as my mind raced through possibilities. Work event? Team building? Friend in need? None of the explanations fit the way he described his evening. None explained why he hadn't mentioned a movie at all. I slipped the ticket into my desk drawer, tucked away like a secret weapon I wasn't ready to deploy. That weekend brought a strange calm. Ethan woke early on Saturday and surprised me with breakfast in bed. fresh croissants from the bakery I loved, coffee made exactly how I preferred it, strawberries arranged carefully on the side of the plate. "What's this for?" I asked, trying to ignore the suspicion darkening the edges of my happiness. "Just because I love you," he said, sitting beside me on the bed. His smile reached his eyes, crinkling the corners the way it always had when things were good between us. We spent the day together, walking through the park, stopping for lunch at a new restaurant, talking about vacation plans for summer. His hand held mine, warm and familiar, and I found myself relaxing into the feeling. "Maybe Greece this year?" he suggested, eyes sparkling with the warmth I'd fallen for years ago. "You've always wanted to see Santorini." I leaned into him, relief washing through me. "That sounds perfect." For a few precious hours I convinced myself I'd imagined everything. The late nights, the password changes, the vanilla perfume. We were fine. We were us. The fantasy shattered at 9:17 p.m. We were watching a movie on the couch, my head on his shoulder, when his phone buzzed in his pocket. He tensed, just slightly, but enough that I felt it. "Work?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Probably nothing," he said, but he shifted away from me to check the screen. Whatever he saw made him stand abruptly. "I need to answer this. Project, emergency." He disappeared into the bathroom, phone in hand. The door clicked shut, followed by the sound of the faucet running, loud enough to muffle his voice. 30 minutes. He spent 30 minutes in the bathroom on a Saturday night. When he emerged, his expression was carefully composed, but a nervous energy radiated from him. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just some files are corrupted. I talked the team through it." He slid back beside me, but the comfortable intimacy from earlier had vanished. That night, lying beside him in bed, listening to his even breathing, I made a decision. I needed to know. Not suspicions or hunches or circumstantial evidence. I needed the truth, whatever pain it might bring. My mother had once told me, "Doubt is like poison. A little makes you cautious. Too much kills everything." I was drowning in doubt, and our relationship was gasping for air. Tomorrow I will find proof, one way or another. Sunday morning dawned with unusual quiet in our apartment. Ethan had barely spoken since his mysterious bathroom call, and tension hung between us like an invisible wall. "I've got an emergency meeting at work," he announced over coffee, not meeting my eyes. "Some issue with the client deliverables." "On Sunday?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. He nodded, already gathering his things. "Shouldn't be more than a couple hours." The door closed behind him at 10:17 a.m. I sat motionless at the kitchen table, listening to his car pull away, feeling a strange calm settle over me. This was my chance. I moved to the living room where our shared tablet sat on the coffee table. We bought it together last year, a household device for recipes, shopping lists, and streaming shows. Ethan had logged into his accounts on it, just as I had. It wasn't snooping if the device belonged to both of us, I reasoned, trying to quiet the voice that whispered otherwise. My finger hovered over the screen. Once I looked, there would be no going back. Whatever I found would change everything, either healing my paranoia or confirming my worst fears. I tapped the screen. The tablet woke instantly, still logged into Ethan's profile from when he'd checked something last night. His messaging app icon blinked with unread notifications. One deep breath. Then I pressed it. The messages loaded, dozens between him and Jenna spanning months. My eyes caught fragments as I scrolled, each one hitting me like physical blows. "Miss you already. Can't wait for Tuesday. That thing you did." I stopped scrolling when I saw my name. The message was from yesterday. "Ethan, Ava's asking questions about you." "What did you tell her?" "Ethan, nothing. She trusts me too much. I can say anything and she'll believe it." My lungs refused to work properly. The room tilted slightly as I continued reading, my fingers swiping through months of deception, of plans made while I waited at home, of complaints about our relationship. Ava's too needy, too trusting, too much. The words blurred through tears I hadn't realized were falling. I read about hotel rooms booked twice last month, about how my schedule was so predictable it made their meetings easy to arrange, about how Jenna wore vanilla perfume because Ethan had once mentioned he liked it. Vanilla. The scent from that night. My stomach churned violently. Cold sweat broke across my forehead as I continued reading. The messages painted a complete picture of betrayal, not just physical, but emotional. They shared inside jokes. They complained about working together. They discussed a future where they might someday figure things out. My hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped the tablet. I felt hollow, as if someone had scooped out everything inside me and left just a shell sitting there on our couch. Our couch where they had apparently met once when I was visiting my parents. The physical symptoms hit in waves. First came the nausea, rising from my stomach into my throat. Then dizziness made the room spin slightly. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, drowning out the usual Sunday sounds from the street below. Most striking was the cold, a bone-deep chill despite the warm spring day. I sat frozen for what felt like hours, the tablet growing warm in my shaking hands. When I finally stood, my legs nearly buckled beneath me. I stumbled to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left but bitter bile. In the mirror, a stranger stared back at me. Pale face, red-rimmed eyes, a person whose entire reality had just shattered. I knew I had to confront him. The thought of facing Ethan, of watching him lie to my face again or scramble for excuses, made my stomach heave once more. But I needed to hear him say it. I needed to watch his face when he realized what I knew. With numb fingers, I took screenshots of the most damning messages. Dozens of them. I emailed them to myself, then carefully cleared the sent folder and returned the tablet exactly as I'd found it. Evidence secured, I moved methodically through the apartment, seeing everything through new eyes. The framed photo of us in Yosemite now looked like propaganda for a fictional relationship. The coffee mug I'd bought him with "Trust me, I'm an engineer" printed on the side felt like a cruel joke. The spare toothbrush in our bathroom, was it kept for Jenna on nights I worked late? I pulled out clean sheets and remade our bed, unable to bear sleeping another night on linens that now felt contaminated. Then I showered, scrubbing my skin until it turned pink, as if I could wash away the touch of someone who had held me while lying to my face for months. By evening, I had formulated a plan. Not a confrontation fueled by raw emotion, but something calculated, something that would leave no room for more lies. I would wait until tomorrow, until we were both home from work. I would print the screenshots. I would ask him calmly to explain. The key turned in the lock at 6:42 p.m. I took a deep breath and wiped all emotion from my face. "Hey," Ethan called, his voice casual. "How was your day?" "Enlightening," I answered, and began preparing for tomorrow. Monday passed in a blur. I moved through the motions at work, responding to emails and attending meetings while feeling completely detached from my body. Colleagues noticed, asked if I was feeling well, commented on my unusual quietness, but I deflected with vague mentions of a headache. At 5 p.m., I left the office and drove to a printing shop. 20 minutes later, I walked out with a folder containing 12 pages of evidence, screenshots, timestamps, locations, all neatly organized and impossible to deny. Our kitchen table felt like the right place for this conversation. Neutral territory, well lit, with nowhere to. I arranged the printed screenshots in a neat pile beside his dinner plate. A glass of water sat at my place, untouched. No alcohol. I needed clarity for what was coming. The lock turned at 6:30 p.m. I straightened my posture and steadied my breathing. "Something smells good," Ethan called from the hallway. His voice, once a comfort, now scraped against my nerves like sandpaper. He rounded the corner, smile fading as he took in my expression and the formal table setting. His eyes flickered to the stack of papers. "We need to talk about Jenna," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. His face drained of color so quickly I thought he might faint. He gripped the back of the chair, knuckles whitening. "What do you mean?" he attempted, but the words came out hollow. I slid the top screenshot toward him, the one where he'd written I trusted him too much. "It's not what you think," he stammered, eyes darting between the paper and my face. "Then what is it?" I asked, my voice strangely calm, "because it looks like you've been sleeping with your coworker for months while lying to my face." "Ava, please." He pulled out the chair and sank into it, hands trembling. It wasn't serious." I pushed another screenshot toward him. This one showed plans for a weekend away, careful coordination of lies to tell me. "Not serious," I echoed. "You booked a hotel in wine country for her birthday." His excuses poured out in a desperate stream. Stress at work. Feeling trapped in routine. A moment of weakness that turned into something he couldn't control. With each justification, his voice grew smaller, less certain. "She meant nothing," he insisted, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled away, my skin crawling at his touch. "Don't. I love you, Ava. Only you. This was just meaningless." "You discussed a future with her," I said, sliding forward to another page. "You complained about me to her. You told her intimate details about our relationship. That doesn't sound meaningless." His face crumpled. "I never meant to hurt you." "But you did," I replied, deliberately, repeatedly, for months. Something shifted between us in that moment. The power balance that had tilted in his favor for so long suddenly reversed. With each passing minute, with each admission I dragged from him, I felt strangely calmer while he grew more agitated. "Why?" I asked simply. "We built a life together. We talked about marriage, about children. Why risk all of that?" He stared at his hands, unable to meet my gaze. "I don't know. I felt inadequate sometimes. You're so trusting, so good. I started wondering what it would be like with someone else, if I could still attract someone new." "So you weaponized my trust," I said, the realization dawning with painful clarity. "You didn't just betray it. You used it against me. You took my deepest vulnerability, my need for honesty, and turned it into a tool for deception." "No, that's not," he began, but stopped when I raised my hand. "When did it start?" I asked. "The Christmas party," he admitted after a long pause. "We talked." She flirted. "It felt good. December. 7 months of lies." I closed my eyes briefly, calculating all the moments since then when I'd believed his stories, accepted his excuses, and trusted his words. "The night you came home smelling like vanilla," I said. "Where were you really?" He flinched. "Her apartment." By midnight, everything lay exposed between us. Every lie catalogued, every betrayal acknowledged. The movie dates, the fake work emergencies, the hotel room twice last month. With each admission, I felt strangely lighter, as if each truth, however painful, was setting me free. "I think I always knew," I finally said, gathering the papers into a neat stack. "I just loved you too much to admit it." Ethan wiped tears from his cheeks. "Can we fix this? Please, Ava. I'll do anything. Therapy. Complete transparency. Whatever you need." I studied his face, the face I'd woken up to for 6 years, the face I'd trusted completely. And for the first time, I saw him clearly. A man who had broken something precious because he couldn't recognize its value. "When you told Jenna I trust too much," I said quietly, "you made it sound like a flaw. Like my capacity for faith in people was a weakness you could exploit." That's when I realized this isn't about the affair. It's about how you see me, as someone whose best quality is also her biggest vulnerability. He reached for my hand again. This time I let him take it, but felt nothing. No warmth, no connection, no echo of the love that had sustained me for years. "I'll be staying at Lila's for a while," I told him, gently pulling my hand away. "I need space to figure out what happens next." "Please don't leave," he whispered, desperation edging his voice. I stood, suddenly exhausted. "You left long before I did, Ethan. You just kept coming home afterward." 3 days later, I moved out with only what I needed. Clothes, personal documents, a few books, and the small jade plant my grandmother had given me before she died. I left behind furniture, photos, and 6 years of memories embedded in objects I couldn't bear to look at anymore. Lila opened her door without questions, just pulled me into a hug as I collapsed into tears on her threshold. My body shook with sobs I'd been holding back for days. Grief finally breaking through the shock that had carried me through the confrontation. "You'll survive this," she whispered, guiding me to her couch. "You survived before you met him, and you'll survive after." She made tea while I curled into myself, watching steam rise from the mug like the ghost of everything I'd lost. That first night I barely spoke, just existed in the quiet safety of her guest bedroom, staring at the ceiling until dawn broke. Ethan called 17 times that first day. I let each call go to voicemail, listening to his messages evolve from desperate pleas to angry accusations. "Please come home, we can work through this. I deserve a chance to make this right." "You're overreacting? It wasn't that serious. You invaded my privacy, that's not fair." By the 3rd day, I blocked his number. The weeks that followed blurred together. I found an apartment, a small 1-bedroom with morning light that streamed through east-facing windows. I bought new furniture, piece by piece, creating a space that had no history with Ethan. Work became my anchor, the one part of my life that remained unchanged. I threw myself into projects, stayed late, came in early. Colleagues noticed the shift, but respected my privacy, except for my boss, who quietly approved a week of personal leave when she saw me crying in the break room. "Take the time you need," she said, sliding a box of tissues across her desk. "The work will be here when you get back." I used that week to find a therapist, a woman with kind eyes who didn't flinch when I described how thoroughly I'd been deceived. "Trust isn't a character flaw," she told me during our second session. "It's a gift. Some people just don't deserve it." Those words became a lifeline as I navigated the aftermath. The hardest part wasn't losing Ethan, it was facing how much of myself I'd surrendered to keep him. How I'd ignored warning signs, made excuses, diminished my own instincts. "I feel so stupid," I admitted to Lila over dinner one night. Looking back, it was so obvious. "Stop that," she said firmly. "He lied because you're trustworthy, not because you're gullible. That's on him, not you." Ethan's messages eventually stopped. Through mutual friends, I learned he'd transferred to his company's Seattle office. I felt a strange relief knowing physical distance now matched our emotional separation. 4 months after moving out, I ran into Jenna at a coffee shop downtown. Our eyes met across the counter, and for a suspended moment, neither of us moved. She looked away first, gathering her drink with shaking hands before hurrying toward the exit. "Jenna," I called, surprising myself. She froze, turning slowly to face me. "Ava, Is he worth it?" I asked simply. Her eyes widened, then filled with tears. "We're not together anymore. He did the same thing to me that he did to you." I nodded, feeling no satisfaction in her pain, just a profound sadness for all of us caught in that web of deceit. "I hope you find someone who values honesty." That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time since everything fell apart. Trust isn't weakness. Loving deeply isn't a flaw. I won't let one betrayal rob me of my capacity for honesty. The pain didn't disappear, but it transformed into something valuable. A reminder that I survived, and that I'm worthy of a love that doesn't require me to be less trusting to be safe. 6 months after the confrontation, I stood in my new apartment, surrounded by friends celebrating my promotion at work. Laughter filled the space that had once felt too empty, too quiet. I caught my reflection in the window, cheeks flushed with happiness, eyes clear and present. "You look good," Lila said, appearing beside me with fresh drinks. "Whole again." "I feel good," I replied, realizing it was true. Not the same, but good. Later, after everyone had gone, I sat on my balcony watching the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "It's Ethan. Got a new number. I'm back in town. Can we talk?" My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I felt only a calm certainty as I typed my response. "No. I wish you well, but that chapter is closed." I blocked the new number and turned back to the night sky, breathing deeply. The future stretched before me, unmarked by his betrayal. I had learned that trust once broken doesn't have to stay shattered forever. It can be gathered up and given again, just more wisely. The most important lesson wasn't about Ethan at all. It was about me, about recognizing my own worth and refusing to let someone else define it. About understanding that vulnerability isn't weakness, but courage. "You were too deep already," he had told Jenna about me, and I still said more. But depth wasn't my failing, it was my strength. And in that depth, I found the resilience to begin again.